What do you think about Chris Young kind of admitting that his patience was wearing thin and calling this offense out? Good thing, bad thing, something that had to happen? What do you think?
I'll start off by saying it was a surprising thing. And the story by Evan Grant was fascinating to read because rarely, Trisha, and you know this, do we see or hear GMs talking that openly about the team's struggles and how the team needs to get better. He said, Young, and I quote, "I'm edgy and rightfully so." And beyond that, he had some other things to say as well. And now they've done some things already. They've dropped Simeon in the order. They're not playing Leody Taveras in center field. They've got Evan Carter at AAA building up, waiting on him. And in the story, Evan alluded to possible change. I don't know how that would come about because they really just changed hitting people for the most part. Tim Hires left for Atlanta. They hired new hitting coaches. And Bruce Bochy, in 28 years as a manager, has never changed a coach midseason. But to hear Chris Young talk like that, it was surprising. And I remember covering Chris Young as a player. I thought he was the nicest guy in the world. He is a nice guy. What I didn't necessarily see in those interactions back then was how competitive he was. I should have known that. He had a long major league career as a pitcher. But that competitive fire burns brightly. And we saw it in those comments.
So let me ask you this, Ken. Do you like when a general manager or a president of baseball ops or a manager calls a team out like that? Because, it wasn't necessarily personalized to one specific player, but I know, in my opinion, after being in baseball now for 7 years and covering professional sports for 15 years, I like that. And I think baseball needs more of that. You see that in the NBA, you see that in the NFL, you see guys holding people a little bit more publicly accountable without the humiliation factor. And I'm a big fan of something like this as long as it's done tactfully. And I feel like this was necessary. But sometimes we know in baseball that doesn't sit well with guys in the clubhouse, which I would argue they need to get over that. But what do you think?
Trisha, you said it well that this wasn't personal. He didn't name anybody and call out anybody on the record by name. So when you're speaking generally about a team, in my mind, it can be healthy. And frankly, it does need to happen more often. We've seen it a little bit this year. Milwaukee Brewers manager Pat Murphy pulled two players, benched two players recently, and last night Tobias Myers, when he didn't have it, out of the game. So he was not pleased with what he perceived as lackadaisical effort. Guys not kind of showing up the way they should, and he acted on it. He didn't rip them, but his actions spoke volumes. Baseball is a little bit different, actually a lot different than the NBA and the NFL. The culture of the sport is completely different. The
Oh,
culture of the
different.
sport is be humble, shut your mouth, just play.
Ugh.
It's been
Ugh.
that way for years. And that's why when we
Yeah.
have let the kids play and this new age of player, there's been some friction. But in my view, and this is what you're talking about, it would be a lot more fun, the sport in general, if there were more lively personalities, managers, coaches, players, GMs, owners, everybody. That is what makes things interesting. And we're not talking about rocket science here. We're not talking about world
No.
politics. We're talking about baseball. But
Yep.
I get that it's a serious profession. I get that it's a $12 billion industry. At the same time, we can have a little more fun.
I understand that too, Ken, but at the same time, it is meant for entertainment. We are not like solving world hunger here every single day at a press conference. We are talking about baseball. So I think, and I've mentioned this before on podcasts, and I know I do talk about his attitude a lot, but even though I don't necessarily always agree with what he says, we need more guys like Tommy Pham and Jaron Duran in the league who are a lot more outspoken and who kind of wear their emotions on their sleeve. It doesn't always have to be a gentleman's game. I'm not saying go out there and do something crazy. You don't need to be mean. You don't need to be insane. But like when you look at the NBA and the NFL, those players are far more willing to share their opinions after the game on the game. They're far more willing to provide that type of entertainment. And guess what? the leagues and the game benefit from those players, right? I was at game 5 of the Bucks and Pacers this week. First of all, I love the NBA. I used to cover it for 7 years, and I grew up in Indiana, so basketball is my thing. But I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about how much more entertainment value there is in the NBA compared to other leagues, because those guys wear their emotions on their sleeve and they hold each other accountable. And they're not afraid to be outspoken. And I like that. And I wish baseball had more of that. You can be outspoken and entertaining and passionate while still being respectful. You can absolutely walk that line. And I agree, Ken. I want more of that. I want more. I need more.
I I totally agree. And what we're talking about is life, showing your life, bringing passion, as you just mentioned. And it's not just guys like Pham and Durant. We have other examples. If you watch last
Yeah.
night, John Morosi's interview with Geraldo Perdomo, he is a live wire. That's one
So
example
good.
right there.
So
And
good.
Pete Crow Armstrong, a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, he's another example. Jazz Chisholm Jr. These guys, there's something to them, and they make the
Yep.
game more interesting. It's not for everyone. Some people have more placid personalities. Of course, that's understandable. But in general, free expression is a good thing. Free
Yes.
expression makes for more interesting people, and I'd like to see more of it too.
Nothing drives me more insane than when there's just some vanilla interview with a guy that I do. And I'm like, I have teed you up with some of the
Best
easiest
questions
layups.
ever.
Oh, well, no, they're just like layup questions. And I'm like, I'm asking you to show your personality here. And they're just like, yeah, whatever I can do to help the team win. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would rather watch paint dry right now. Like, I can't stand a boring, pointless interview when a guy is not willing to play ball with any. So you don't have to say anything controversial. Just don't be boring. You're in the entertainment business. Don't be boring. Drives me nuts.
Kratz, let's talk about the #1 recommended dermatologist hair growth supplement brand. And it's a brand that you are just starting your journey with.
I'm using what about 1.5, 2 months into my journey. It's a 6-month journey. See what I can get. See a little thicker, fuller everywhere, filling it out. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I'm very excited to see the Nutrafol results with Kratz. And don't show us your hat yet, okay? You got to stay tuned through this journey. And if you want to join Kratz for this journey, you can start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering FT listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code FOUL. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com. Promo code FOUL. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code FOUL.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.